you know, my main thought was I don't want to have to be the one to do the Stan Lee tribute like that. That's gonna suck. I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna be hard to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm right on that. Um, I was actually fortunate enough to meet Stan Lee. Now, if anybody wants to hop on, this is not the last thing that we're going to do for Stan Lee. This is just my initial reaction, my thoughts, kind of, letting everybody know what's up and kind of confirming to those who may be a little bit late in finding out that Stan Lee has passed away at the age of 95. Um, this is the thing that from day one of the channel I did not want to do, uh, but here we are. We knew it was coming. There was always the memes floating around of, it's gonna really be rough whenever we go to that one Marvel movie, and like we're gonna eventually go see that Marvel movie, which I guess now is gonna be Captain Marvel and probably Infinity uh, Avengers 4 as well, and that we'll be checking it out, and then at the end, it'll say in memory of Stan Lee, and as it's just one of those rough things. Like we knew it was coming. I mean, the man was in his mid 90s and had it's like every time you saw a picture of him as a post, your heart would skip a beat and you would think, ah, crap, it happened, and then you would be like, oh no, oh, thank God it didn't happen, and but we were not so fortunate this time, unfortunately. Um, I do, however, want to take just a second and run over and grab a couple of things that are very near and dear to me. Kind of like my way of venting and letting everybody know. And a couple of the things, these are things that are very near and dear to me. Um, I was fortunate enough, this is something that I used to talk about on my channel all the time, and we'll probably talk about now more than anything. Um, I was fortunate enough on August, when was this? August 14th, 2014. I purchased the massive VIP. It was like the $350, $400 package to Wizard World Chicago, and I wanted to go see Stan Lee. I wanted to get his autograph, get a photo op, everything. And so the first day that I went, I think I did one thing on Friday, one thing on Saturday. Showed up there Friday. I had actually gotten a comic book signed by Stan Lee. This was the comic book that my first ever letter was in, and Superior Spider-Man number 31 was like a Midtown Comics variant, sketch cover, graded 9.8. Actually, was fortunate enough. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Stan Lee's signature is like right here at the end of my finger. Stan Lee across it. Probably, like honestly, somebody could offer me $500,000 for that, and I wouldn't take it. The next day, I was actually fortunate enough to get a photo op with him, and there's me and Stan Lee. Like I not not everybody could say they got to meet the man, but I did, and like that is means a lot to me that I was able to stand next to Stan Lee. And one very really cool, interesting thing that happened whenever I went to meet Stan Lee and was actually able to get the photo op is, they ushered you through like cattle. You would, walk up to him, picture, walk away, walk up to him, picture, walk away. And as I walked up to him and stood next to Stan Lee, the photographer was like, "Hey, I need to get some water. Let's take a really quick, like, 2-minute break." And I got to stand there next to Stan Lee. obviously just dumbfounded. I was totally unable to talk or anything. And I just kind of stood there and looked at him with a stupid grin on my face the whole time. Of course, I'm sure he'd seen that a million times before by, awestruck fanboys such as myself. But yeah, I probably could have done that a little bit better. But one of the interesting things that happened is whenever he signed my comic book, of course, I'm sure in the line of people, he probably didn't recognize me or anything. But one of the things that happened was I walked up to him, handed him my comic book, and I realized he was a wealthy individual. He didn't have to go to these comic conventions. He did it more, I think, as like a love for the fans. Nobody in the early to mid '90s, you know, especially with the money he had and everything he had going on. He did it because he loved the fandom. He wanted to go out there. And I heard that, I don't know how true it is, but I heard that a lot of the money that he took in actually went to like charity and stuff as far as convention appearances and stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard. And so I handed my book to him, like this very same book. I handed it to him, and he signed it. And before, he handed it back to me. Before I could walk off, I was like, thank you for coming out and doing this event. And he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Thank you, young man." And like it was freaking cloud nine. Like Stan Lee acknowledged me, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Thank you, young man, for coming out." I was like holy crap. But yeah, this like I said, this isn't easy. It isn't. Like this isn't any. Um, like this actually kind of sucks worse than I thought it would, having to sit here and uh, kind of have this conversation, you know, on the air. But unfortunately, Stan Lee has left us at the age of 95. One of those days that we all dreaded, but really, hoped that it wouldn't happen. Hell, I thought the guy would be immortal. Um, and interestingly enough, I was doing a pre-recorded interview with artist Bill Cobe. I had been wanting to do this interview for like 5 or 6 years, and we've been talking about it, talking about it. Today we finally put it together. We started the interview just after 1:30. About two-thirds of the way through the interview, my phone started blowing up in the middle of the interview. I just kind of glanced down at my phone. I'm getting links. I'm getting people saying, "Have you heard this? Have you heard about Stan Lee?" And then the freaking pile of notifications from news sites. Stan Lee's passed away at 95. The world has lost Stan Lee, and I'm just like, I told Bill, I was like, "Man, I'm sorry." I said, "But I need to interrupt the interview. Stan Lee's just passed away," and we kind of sat there and had a talk about that. That interview will be on at some point today, I think. I was hoping to put it on today, but with everything that we're going to be doing, I'm hoping to do a kind of a roundtable discussion either today or tomorrow at Infinity Flux in regards to the us losing Stan Lee. But yeah, this is going to be one of those rough days. We've still got another interview to do today, and just hope to God we can keep our minds on everything. Anything, pretty much everything we do this week is going to be dedicated to Stan the Man. It's it's rough. Like I really, I don't have words. I really don't, because this is, like I said, this is one of those things that we've dreaded for a long time. No, everybody knew, Stan Lee wasn't a young man. He was getting up there, and then we had a lot of the controversy surrounding his last year or so, accusations of elder abuse, and to the point where Kevin Smith even offered Stan to come live with him. I thought that was really cool of Kevin. And then everybody was just kind of waiting. He had a couple of health scares, and a lot of times whenever you hear about that, you're just waiting on the next news headline to be the worst. And he just kept avoiding it. And kept, cheating it, and that, um, yeah, Ashley's in the chat as well. And, there's no way, there seriously no way to adequately describe what this man meant to a lot of people. Anybody who has gotten into comics over the last 30 years, uh, as far as like creative, anybody who's gotten into the creative part of comics over the last 30 years, anybody who's watched an X-Men movie, any fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the X-Men movies, the Daredevil, Hulk, uh, any number of comic book characters, um, imagine how different the world would be without Stan Lee. I mean, there's people, uh, Bill mentioned it earlier during our interview, and, we'll be airing that later. There's always some controversy about Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, who created what, who wrote what. Um, but I stand firm on my thought that, in those early days, everybody complimented everybody. I don't think a lot of these characters would have happened without one or the other. Those two men worked kind of in tandem, and I'm not going to sit around and have an argument over who did what. They both offered, numerous, uncountable, uh, awesome things to the industry, and like there's really no getting around that. Stan Lee, um, he was like the one of the minds, if not the mind, behind X-Men, the original five X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, just a number of individual comic book characters. And like I said, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Fox properties, all that would not exist without Stan Lee. He started the X-Men universe. Like, think about it. In a way, everybody knows my favorite character is Jubilee. And if not for Stan Lee, that butterfly effect, Jubilee wouldn't exist today. I wholeheartedly believe in such a thing. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm here with my Stan Lee picture where I got to meet Stan Lee back on, uh, I believe it was August 15th is when this picture happened at Wizard World Chicago in 2014. And then also my autograph book. Like I said, I would not take $500,000 for that book. But I don't want to sit here and just ramble on and ramble on and ramble on. Basically, I don't think I'm, being completely honest, I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'm going to have to take some time, as I'm sure a lot of you will, to process and kind of put this together. Probably going to go find one of my DVDs about Stan Lee, watch it, probably cry a little bit. I mean, just, there's no freaking shame in that, y'all. Seriously, as much as this man meant to us, to the nerd community as a whole, no shame in being upset over this. No shame in being emotional. No shame in any of that, because I would, aside from the people, my parents who gave me life, probably no, honest to God, nobody impacted my life creatively quite like, the man in the picture here, Stan Lee. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. We're going to try to do a like kind of a roundtable discussion with several people at Infinity Flux. I don't know if that's going to be today or tomorrow. Really just depends on when we get everybody together. We will be doing our interviews as scheduled this afternoon. Going to try to do some work, but like I said, everything, all the game streams, everything we do over the next several days, going to be in like direct memoriam to Stan the Man Lee, who left us today at the age of 95. Like I said, nothing ever, it's not easy. It's pretty rough. So anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming on and sitting with us and kind of getting through this. We'll be back later on this evening. Thanks for watching.